once again in the 12th day of the shutdown of government for the American people, on the 12th day of having people work, pledged to be paid, but not working for that pay. Again, the Republicans have refused to put on the floor legislation to open the people's government. We've had over 150 members sign a petition to open the government now and to bring legislation to the floor which would do that. We had scores of members asking for unanimous consent of the body to do just that, so that government could be open today. And in fact, Mr. Van Hollen, who's with us, just made a point of order that but for a resolution that was passed just a few days ago, any member of the House would have been in order to ask for H.R. 59 to be put, House Joint Resolution 59, to be put on the floor. He'll discuss that at greater length. But the American people want the government open. They want us to talk, they want us to reach agreement, but they see no need, as we see no need, to have literally millions of people adversely impacted, shut out of their workplace, while the Republican majority shuts down the government and tries to hold a gun at our head to agree on things that in a democratic process ought to be dealt with not at the point of a gun, but at the table of conference, to which they have refused to go over the last 5 months. Now let me yield to my colleague, the Assistant Leader, Jim Clyburn.
Thank you, Mr. Whip. Here we are on day 12 of a government shutdown that has been imposed upon the American people by a series of manufactured crises. And today, we have witnessed attempts on behalf of this Congress by the majority to shut off debate and to keep the minority voices that they say they want to hear from offering up the alternatives that the American people have made very clear that they would like to see brought into play. This is what happens in the governmental process when we stymie opposition, when we cut off debate, and when we continue to teeter on disaster by manufactured crises. It is time for us to reopen the government, let people go back to work, and have the American people once again put at ease. And with that, I'd like to yield to our chair, Mr. Becerra.
I thank Mr. Clyburn. It's incredible what we're watching. Just now, in the last few minutes, House Democrats took to the floor and asked for unanimous consent to see if our colleagues would allow us, without objecting, to put on the floor a measure that would allow us to reopen the government. And even the request just to ask to have this measure put on the floor was shut down. And so I think the message is very clear on the part of the representatives of so many of the millions of Americans who don't understand why they can't go to work, why we can't let our economy move forward. We're saying, let America work. Let America's representatives vote to put Americans back to work. Let our government reopen. That's the simple message. We're here to demand that, and we will not stop until we are allowed to let America work. With that, let me yield to the Vice Chairman of the Democratic Caucus, Joe Crowley.
Thank you, Javier. What we just saw on the floor was the shutdown of democracy, a free and open debate about the most important issue confronting our country right now, and that is that its government is not operating. We were using our procedural motions to express our displeasure with the majority and they took their opportunity then to shut down all that debate as well. But what it did not shut down was the shutdown of this government. This government continues to be shut down. We need to open up government working for all the people of the United States, all of the people of the United States. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague from New York, Mr. Israel.
Thank you. The Republican leadership made a decision to end this session for the weekend. And so this weekend, the federal government remains shut down, but the Republicans said planes can take off, carrying members back to their districts. So this weekend, seniors continue to have uncertainty about what's going to happen to their Social Security benefits on Monday. And small businesses this weekend don't know if they, when they open on Monday, whether they'll be able to apply for SBA loans. And veterans have that uncertainty. And the entire country still has the uncertainty over this weekend, based on a decision by these Republicans to send us home, let those planes take off while the federal government remains shut down. And that is fundamentally wrong. Now, the last thing that we saw on this discharge petition, 186 Democrats in the span of less than an hour signed a discharge petition to this government now. 186 Democrats. 200 Democrats have already stated that they would support a vote on a clean budget to open this government now. No strings attached, no conditions, just open this government. There are 20 to 30 Republicans who will get on that plane today and fly home and spend the rest of the weekend in their districts saying to their clean budget. Well, I hope that when those constituents see those Republicans who claim that they are willing to vote for a clean budget, they ask them, will you sign that discharge petition when you get back on Monday? Will you put your pen where your promises are, and will you put your people ahead of partisanship? They have an opportunity to do that on Monday. I hope they listen very carefully to their constituents on Saturday and Sunday. And with that, I will yield to the distinguished ranking member of the Budget Committee who has led us in this fight to reopen the government, Chris Van Hollen from Maryland.
Thank you, Steve. As Steve and my colleagues have said, every day that this shutdown goes on is another day that the country is hurting from this unnecessary action taken by our Republican colleagues. Now, we know from public statements that there are a majority of members of the House of Representatives who want to vote to immediately reopen the entire federal government. And the Speaker has refused to allow the People's House to work its will. He's refused to allow democracy to work its will. In fact, we just heard on the floor of the House that they actually rigged the rules of the House. They changed the rules of the House to deny the opportunity to any member of Congress, Republican or Democrat, to call up and vote on the law that would immediately open the federal government and end this unnecessary disruption throughout the country. They said that only the Republican leader, Eric Cantor, or his designee, could call to open up the government. What kind of democracy is that when you know there are a majority of Republicans and Democrats in this House today who want to open the government? Now, as Chairman Israel and others have said, we're going to give all our members an opportunity to show that they mean what they say, to show that here in Congress they will do what they're telling their constituents back home they will do, because you have a majority, well over a majority, who said that they want to do the people's business and they want to immediately allow a vote to reopen the government. So we have a petition called the discharge petition, but what it will do, if we can get everybody who said they want to open the government right now to sign it, it's a petition to reopen the government now. And there are no more excuses. I think Republicans forgot why they shut down the government to begin with these days. But this is the opportunity to take action, to get it open now. But let's just be real that the Speaker could walk onto that chamber today and get it done. If they hadn't changed the rules of the House, any of us could have get it done. But let's let the people get it done. Let's sign that petition. And I hope everybody who's here will be asking those members of Congress who publicly said they wanted to vote to reopen the government right now, whether they're going to sign that petition to do what they said they wanted to do. And with that, I want to introduce one of our terrific new members from the great state of New York, who just signed the petition to open government and is calling on all other members of Congress, new and old, to join her in doing that. Grace Ming, New York.
As a proud member of this new freshman class, I was very happy right now just to sign the petition. And we are a freshman class that came to Congress to work on behalf of people. We came to Congress because we want to cooperate with both sides of the aisle. We want to make sure that Americans have more opportunities, more jobs, and that our children are fed. We are disappointed, and we really plead with the Republican leadership to end this shutdown, to make sure that we are able to cooperate. We have issues of concern too. We want to work on immigration reform. We want to work on tax reform. But issues like that and the Affordable Health Care Act should not be part of whether government functions or not. So we plead with Republican leadership and the 20 to 30 members who signaled that they would be supportive on this measure to reopen government, and thank them.
Thank you all very, very much. As each of our members has said, we believe very strongly there are the votes that have been displayed publicly in terms of discussions with the press and with constituents. There are the votes to open up government. As Mr. Van Hollen said, they amended the rules just a few weeks ago so that only the majority leader or his designee, Mr. Cantor, whose state is being very adversely affected by the shutdown of government, could offer the motion to bring H.R. 59 to the floor. We would hope he would do that. We would hope the Speaker would do that. America wants that to happen, and they've clearly indicated that in every poll. Questions?
Congressman, actually, I have a question for Congressman Crowley. Majority Leader Cantor's spokesman said that you inappropriately touched a staffer for Eric Cantor. He says that that might have been blown out of proportion. I mean, basically, what we need to know is what happened.
Blown out of proportion may be very accurate, I think. I had a few words with a young staff member of Mr. Cantor. I believe that his actions on the floor were out of line and not in keeping with the decorum of the House. He agreed with me. He apologized, and I accepted his apology.
What did he do? What did he do?
Let me say, I happen to watch this. Clearly, the Republicans were not happy with us continuing to say, let's open the government, because they're not opening the government. And that frustration, I think, boiled over. This staffer is a good person. I think he got a little exercised. And there was an exchange with one of my staff members. I was not close by. Mr. Crowley said he thought that was inappropriate, and I'm glad to hear that the staffer has apologized. I think that was appropriate. But the issue is we need to open the government for the American people, not get distracted by the fact that the government of the United States of America that serves the American people is shut down needlessly for political purposes only. There are 186. There are 186 signatures.
The focus right now seems to be on this plan being discussed on the Senate side, Collins Mansion. What have you heard from Senator Reid and your other colleagues on the Senate side about how this plan might be changed and how this will eventually be solved?
I haven't talked to him, but your key word there is eventually. We need to open the government now. The President's indicated he's willing to talk. We're willing to talk. Mr. Van Hollen for 6 months has been trying to go to the conference table to talk about these issues, but they don't need to be talked about while government is shut down. That is hurting America. It's hurting our national security. It's hurting the government employees, but it's hurting the millions and millions of Americans that those employees serve. That's the issue. I'm sorry. Look, I'm not going to go into specific, I'm not going to negotiate here or discuss here. The issue is very clear. The American people think it's absurd and wrong and bad policy to be shutting down the government, which costs, Chris, $300 million a day. $300 million a day while we're talking. They understand in a democracy you have differences of opinion, and you talk through those differences of opinion and try to reach consensus. They also understand from their own experiences that may take some time. What they don't believe is that you ought to shut down the government in the process. Deirdre? No, we're not, because we have no belief that the Republicans will open the chamber for business. But I will tell you this, if they would announce that tomorrow morning we will convene to open up the government, I guarantee you that we would get every Democrat back here that was able to get back here. And by that I mean we have a couple of members who are ill. But look, it's not a question of being in session. We've been in session for 12 days, and the government's been shut down. We've been here. We demanded over and over and over again this day, right now, we can open up the government. So, you know, it's not a question of calling members back or not. It's a question of they amended the rules so only Eric Cantor, the majority leader of the House, can put something on the floor to open up government. Eric Cantor has indicated no willingness to do that. We're ready to do it. We're ready to do it tomorrow. We're ready to do it Monday. We'll do it now. Thank you very much.